Hi guys, you're welcome to my channel. If this is your very first time, thank you for watching. So in today's tutorial, we're going to be learning how to draft a basic skirt. Let's get right into the video. I'm gonna head to mark out my border line. Once I'm done with that, I'll divide my hip measurement by 2 and I'll mark out what I got. So once I mark out what I got from the top of the paper to the length of my skirt, I'll just square that line and connecting the points together. Once I'm done connecting those points together, the next thing I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be marking out my skirt length. Just mark out my desired skirt length, and once I'm done marking out my skirt length, I'll square across. Once I'm done squaring across, I'll just divide my hip measurement again by 4 and I'll mark out my result. That means I'm trying to centralize my paper. I'm just marking the midpoint between my start point and my end point. I'll just centralize my paper and I'm just going to roll that line straight down across. Then the next thing I'll mark out is my waist to my hip measurement. I'll mark out my waist to my hip measurement and I'm just going to square right across my pattern paper. So once I'm done squaring across, I'll decide where I'm going to use for my front and my back. You can use either part. So I'm just going to mark out my center front and my center back. So after marking out my center front and my center back, I'll divide my waist measurement by 4 and I'm going to add additional 1 inch for my dart allowance. Once I'm done marking that, then I'm just going to mark out my dart allowance, my dart points, and how I'm going to get that, I'm going to use my bust span measurement divided by 2 inches. Once I'm done marking that out, I'm going to mark out the length of my dart. The length of the dart which I used was 5 inches. I'm just going to mark out my 5 inches for the length of the dart. Then once I mark out my 5 inches and I roll the line to the point, I'm going to be sharing my 1 inch dart, half inch on the one leg and half inch on the second leg of the dart. Then I'm just going to connect those points together. Once I'm done connecting my points together, I'm going to come down at the center front by half of an inch, and at the side front, that's the side front, the other part is the side back. At the side front, I'm going to come up by half of an inch. Once I come up by half of an inch, I will close my dart with, like, close my pattern paper, like, then I'm going to connect the point together. Remember, at the side you go up by half of an inch, and at the center front you go down by half of an inch, giving you a curve because we have this curve on our waist. So the next thing I'm going to move on to, I'm going to connect my waist to my hip measurement, and I'm not going to connect it straight to where my waist to hip line stop. I'm going to move up by 1 inch or 1.5 inch, just so I don't have a sharp curve at the hip line. Once I'm done with that, we're going to be moving on to the back of the skirt, and this is how our basic pattern looks like. Now the first thing we're going to be doing, we're going to be marking out our waist measurement plus 1.5 for that allowance, 1 inch for that allowance, and half inch for our back contouring. So the next thing we're going to be doing, we're going to mark out our bust band measurement plus half of an inch at the back. Then once we are done doing that, we're going to raise the side half of an inch, the same thing we did for the front of the pattern. So once I am done with that, I'm going to repeat the same process for my dart, but this time I'm going to be using 4.5 inches for my dart instead of 5 inches. Then I'll mark out half of an inch at both the leg of the dart, and I'm going to connect my dart. Next thing I'm going to be moving on to, I'm going to be curving out my waistline from one side of my dart leg to the side back of my pattern, but I'm not going to be going down at the center back like I did for the front because of the bum. Then I'm going to connect my side back together. Then remember we added half of an inch for back contouring, so we are just going to mark out that half of an inch for the back, and we are going to connect that straight to the waist hip line. We are going to connect it straight to the hip line. So once we are done with that, we are going to be moving on to the shaping of the skirt. Like we are going to be moving on. We already gotten our basic skirt. So this is our basic skirt. From this particular skirt, you can achieve virtually all the designs of our skirts, our A-line skirts, pencil skirts, and so we are going to be moving on to contouring our skirt to a pencil skirt. So this is how the basic skirt looks like. We have the front and the back. Then those are the darts we are going to eliminate when you are cutting your pattern paper. So I'm just going to be moving on to contouring our skirt. So the next thing I'm going to be doing, I'm just going to be calculating how much I want to contour my skirt. So there's a formula I always use. I don't just contour my skirt. We have I use 4, 6, 8 or 10. So each of them has their advantage. For 4, I use it for more matured people. If you don't really want to skirt very pencil, I use it for matured people, advanced ladies. That's why I use 4 for, because it's not going to be tapered and it's going to be very comfortable. Then I use 6 is like the basics. 6 is just going to be very comfortable. Then 8 is when you want it contoured, and 10 is for photo shoots. Once you're using 10, there's no atom of comfort at all. And the rules about it, because our pattern is on fold, we will need to divide whatsoever figure we are going to be using. If you are using 4, if you are using 6, 8 or 10, whatever the occasion of your client is or what you are using it for. So I'm going to be using 6 for this our pattern, and I'm going to divide my 6 by 2 because my pattern is on fold. Or my pattern is on half scale. So 6 divided by 2 give me 3 inches. So I'm going to be sharing 3 inches for the front and the back. So 1.5 inches for the front, 1.5 inches for the back. So for the front, I'll add my 1.5 inches, and for the back, I'll either add 1 inches at the side back or 1/2 inches at the center back. So depending on the person's figure, if the person has a more protrude bum, you are just going to use 1/4 of an inch at each side of the back. Center back you use 1/4, and the side back you are going to use 1/4. Then moving on to, if you want to use 8 inches to contour your basic skirt to a pencil skirt, you are going to do 8 inches divided by 2, so you have 4 inches in total. 2 inches is going to be for the front and 2 inches will be for the back. So you add 1 inch for one side and 1 inch for the other side, depending on how you want to share your bodies, and you connect it. Do the same process that we have done. If you are going for 10 inches, you do 10 inches divided by 2, so you have 5 inches. You have 2.5 at the front and 2.5 at the back. Like I said before, 10 inches is very extremely going to be pencil. There's not going to be comfort for 10 inches. 8 inches is penciled, like is contoured. 8 inches is contoured. Then 6 inches is if you are this kind of person that you like comfort, and 6 inches is okay. So this is how our pencil skirt, our contour skirt is looking. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. If you have any question, feel free to drop it at the comment section and I'll do well to answer all your questions. See you all in our next tutorial. Have a lovely and wonderful day.